How do you feel that the police have acted throughout this whole investigation?
Very, very angry. It was a child. She was vulnerable. At the time of the attack, she was 14. She was attending a hospital school because she had severe social phobias, that she wouldn't eat in public, she wouldn't stand in a queue, she wouldn't use public toilets. At school, she was being taught on her own in a little room because she wouldn't mix. The social phobias were so severe. She was seeing a counsellor, and that's why she was at the hospital school. She was also awaiting brain scan results when this happened. She clearly wasn't the sort of girl that would have gone to a house like that.
No. On her own?
No. She wouldn't stand in a queue in a McDonald's or fast food takeaway or eat in McDonald's. She'd take it home and eat it in private. She clearly wouldn't do that. There would have been teachers' reports, doctors' reports to have backed that up, but the police haven't wanted to know.
Were there any arrests made consequently?
The day after it happened, 2 Asian Muslim boys were arrested because of names she'd said. But she did also say other names. You know, when she was in and out of consciousness, she was saying all different names. But they only arrested the 2 initially. When she was let out of hospital, the next day they didn't let her out of hospital because she had double vision and she couldn't walk. So she came out of hospital the day after that, on the Friday. The policewoman who was in charge didn't do the statement that day. She said she would come after the weekend on the Monday. That day Jo didn't want to speak about it, which you wouldn't.
Understandably.
You would not want to go through hell again a few days after. I'd encouraged to do a statement straight away because, in my opinion, the faster she got it done, it was out of the way and done with. And she could get on with healing. And also because of the remarks from the policewoman in the hospital that night about me doing a statement, did one, I could do one. But when the policewoman came out on the Monday, I knew from the phone call on the Friday that they was negative. Everything she said was negative. And when she came out on the Monday, it was obvious the police wasn't going to do a thing. They says that because they'd admitted doing it, they didn't need, there was no evidence required because they'd admitted it. That they thought she was older, that apparently she'd said she was 17, that she was drunk when she got there, that it was all consensual. And she just did not want to do my statement. She didn't encourage her and say it's better for everybody if you just do it. I was given false information from the officer. She told me not to tell my family. And I said, my daughter's done nothing to be ashamed of. We're a close family. Which, caused more distress because of her comments. I didn't tell family for 2 weeks. And, I had no support, neither. She said it didn't happen at the location where it happened at. She was calling my daughter a liar. She suggested we should go on holiday. That would make us better and to get over it. I mentioned a private prosecution, and she said, you know how much it would cost? She was just full of negative, comments. And she said she didn't think there was going to be anything in the toxology reports either.
Right.
And I went, and I couldn't believe that she was so insensitive. She told to smile, and then she says, all we need is your mother to smile now. I couldn't believe that she was so insensitive. Everything was so raw. Their colouring. She asked if she knew the difference between telling the truth and lying, and how much the doctors had cost that she'd seen, and how much money would have been wasted if she wasn't telling the truth. In my opinion, she was implying my daughter was lying. And that was on the Monday. She rang me on the Wednesday to say it was as she thought. There was nothing in the toxology reports at all, which I couldn't believe. And she was saying, so without evidence in the toxology, there's not a case. She wasn't given a specially trained officer the family should have had a specially trained officer in such a sensitive situation. She was denied basic human rights, as far as I'm concerned, in a situation like that, and she was a child. They was made aware of the facts of her being vulnerable, and they just ignored it and added to the family's distress, and especially my daughter's. And then to say there was nothing in the toxicology reports, I found hard to swallow, being as the hospital had given her an injection to calm her down. And if she was drunk, there was nothing in there.
There's no evidence of alcohol in the water report.
So there was no drugs. I'd like to know what water sample I actually tested, or even if it was my daughter's water sample I tested. Because I find everything the police have said hard to swallow and misinformed to the point of lying. You know, it was like I was made to feel that my daughter was to blame and that she should feel guilty and ashamed. She came 2 weeks later to return the clothes from forensics. I don't even think they were sent to forensics given that time limit. And the water sample was returned in 5 days when they told me at the hospital it would take 2 to 3 weeks. So there was all these questions that wasn't making sense that I wanted answered and the police wouldn't. Because of that, I went to see a solicitor who started a compensation claim. She said that was the first step. And then she said we'd see what else happened with the police before she did anything else. 3 weeks had passed by then, and I wrote to Lloyd House to complain and say, I can't believe you've treated a child like this. With everything that's gone on, you said there's no evidence, and there is evidence. And started a complaints procedure. That was November 2007. That was only finalised this year in February. So it's taken almost a year and a half. And the things that were in there are lies. There's so many contradictions and inconsistencies, it's unbelievable.
So do you feel that the police have just seemed to brush this under the carpet rather than help you in any way at all?
They haven't helped at all. I've added to the distress. I feel that she was raped, which was awful and terrible to begin with. And then I feel that because of the police's procedure, it was like being raped all over again. You know, she wasn't allowed the basic human rights. She wasn't treated with dignity or sympathy. Nothing. It was just like, it happens, get on with it. Smile.
How's your daughter now?
Still in the sort of same house she was then. It's culminated in 10 days before the anniversary of the rape. She took an overdose. She was admitted to hospital. She was kept in 5-6 days. Released into the care of a psychiatrist. She's on antidepressants and sleeping tablets. And she's suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. And she's now back at hospital school again.
So it's really put her backwards.
She can't sleep. She won't sleep on her own. She'll either sleep downstairs on the settee with me, or she'll sleep in my bed, or she'll have her friend stay. She doesn't even want a little brother who's 11 because he's male, sharing the same room. It's psychologically affected her. She has flashbacks constantly. She says she imagines him on the bus sitting there laughing at her. We can't use the normal bus route because we have to pass the road it happened. She doesn't feel safe. She's got a phobia of any Asian man she distrusts because she doesn't know at the end of the day exactly how many raped her. So it could be any taxi driver. There were taxi drivers involved. She's got no security. She's not the same girl, and she won't be.
What would you like to see happen now, Helen?
I'd like a public inquiry, a proper public inquiry, all aspects of it investigated, because this is in the public's interest. That we're made aware, that the public are made aware of what's going on. There's no help for families and victims. I wasn't given any help, no numbers, nothing. And the public should be made aware of taxi drivers driving the cars, of what they could have done, what they have done. How many girls has this happened to before my daughter? How many girls will it happen to? And how many parents are left doing the job the police are paid to do at the end of the day and trying to get justice for the children?
Helen, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to sit here today and talk to me. I do appreciate it must be very hard for you, and we will, with all our help you as much as we possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you.